The Indianapolis Colts have a new offensive coordinator, and his name is Jim Bob Cooter. That's one hell of a name for a football coach. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by my co-host and fellow writer at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, I honestly thought this offensive coordinator search was going to take a little bit longer. We only heard of two candidates that came out. There could be more, obviously, but only two reported candidates. And the Colts aren't wasting any time building a coaching staff after they've hired Shane Steichen, which, in my opinion, good to see. But how you doing, brother? How was your weekend? And let's talk some Jim Bob Cooter tonight.
Yeah. It was a little weird not having football, but I lied. There's actually XFL, which is not NFL quality, but hey, you know what? It was still football. But hey, I'm really excited to see the Colts. They're taking this with a sense of urgency. I think there was a tweet out there that said we really went from Jeff Saturday and Parks Frazier to Shane Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter, didn't we? And it's like, I think they're taking this very serious. They're ready for serious contention in that division, and it's just good to see some good quality hires happening.
Right. And I think the reason it could be going so fast is because, and this is why the Colts weren't as maybe nervous of waiting for the head coaching hire, is because these guys, a lot of them already knew who they wanted to bring on for coaches on their staff. So now it's just about kind of going through that formal process, making sure it's a good fit, getting the sign off from everybody, and then we're good to go. And I know a lot of people want to talk about old Jim Bob Cooter tonight. So Nathan, great. Good to see you in the chat. He thinks that Jim Bob Cooter's a good fit. Sarah says, love the higher stats.
There we go.
Matt, good to see you, brother. Glad these podcasts can be more positive. Man, I am too. I'm glad we can talk about progress now instead of what might be or when are we going to find out some things. So I'm exactly with you right there, stats Matt. Chad, good to see you, buddy. Welcome, Jim Bob. It's I think a lot of people are on board with this Jim Bob Cooter hire. Quentin, good to see you, buddy. He says great hire. Colts loyalist. We have a Gus, a Bubba, and a Jim Bob Cooter. I like what we're building. Hey, man, as long as it equates to winning football games, that's all I care about. Lawrence is already moving on to how about Istvan for offensive line and Phillip Rivers for quarterbacks coach. Hey, we could see those moves here within the next couple days. Joe, if you're not following Joe on Twitter, he's a great follow. Good to see you, buddy. He thinks it's a great hire as well. Matthew Bright joining the show. We got everybody already coming to talk Jim Bob Cooter with us tonight. So, hey, if you haven't already, I know most of you have, but if you're new here, welcome. We love having you. And if you haven't done so, go ahead and look at that ticker. It says like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow Horseshoe Huddle on Twitter at Colts on FN. Subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube. Hit that little bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, whenever Shot and Destin are going live with their Saddle Up podcast, because the offseason, in all honesty, has really just begun. Yes, the Colts have a head coach, but we're going to be getting into the combine. We're going to be getting into free agency. And of course, the all-important NFL draft coming up in April. So if you haven't already, go ahead and follow all those things and join us on this journey. But Drake, I've yapped enough about the intro. Let's dive right into it. The Colts have reportedly hired Jim Bob Cooter as their offensive coordinator, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. And it was confirmed with a bunch of the local media down there in Indy. I saw Mike Chappell, Zach Kiefer, Joel Erickson, a lot of Stephen Holder as well. A lot of the guys in the know and are plugged in down there in the Indy media have confirmed this as well. So I'm going to give a brief overview of Jim Bob Cooter's career real quick. He actually got his NFL coaching debut right here in Indianapolis. From 2009 to 2011, he was a part of Jim Caldwell's staff when a guy named Peyton Manning was the quarterback. Ever heard of him? So he got his start young there and was with Caldwell. Caldwell thought very highly of him. And then once Caldwell was fired, Cooter spent a season with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2012, and then with the Denver Broncos in 2013 as an offensive assistant, again paired up with Peyton Manning before he jumped and came back to the Detroit Lions with Jim Caldwell. Started as a quarterbacks coach, and I think it was only a season and a half before he was promoted to the offensive coordinator position with the Detroit Lions. So this isn't his first stop as offensive coordinator. Was offensive coordinator for 3 seasons there until Caldwell was fired again. Spent some time with the New York Jets as a running back coach for a couple seasons, and then in 2021. This is where he overlaps with Shane Steichen. If you guys wondered where that overlap might be or how those two are connected, he was a coaching consultant with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021 with Shane Steichen. So that's kind of where that overlap is. And then spent the last season with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Doug Peterson as their pass game coordinator. And we all saw the leap that Trevor Lawrence took last year. So we'll get some other ones here. Matthew says, I love the name Jim Bob Cooter. Says sounds like Varsity Blues.
It does.
Indy. That's pretty fun. Lawrence Owen. Sup guys, hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great day as well, Lawrence. Great to see you. Thanks for coming up and joining the podcast. Tez, what's up, fellas? I love these hirings of Cooter and Manning, looking good for our future quarterback so far. We are right there with you. So Drake, after all of that, what are your initial thoughts on Jim Bob Cooter as the new offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, I mean, he's got a wealth of, experience, and he's seen different types of organizations. He's been on the NFC side of things, the AFC side of things. I mean, when you start your NFL career I believe, offensive assistant under Peyton Manning, I mean, you got to think 2009, they went to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, he was there for 2 different Super Bowl teams, basically, 2 different Super Bowl trips, both under Manning, but he's coached running backs. He's consulted coaches, head coaches, by the way. He has coached quarterbacks. He's called plays. I mean, he's ran the offense for, several different, in several different situations with Matt Stafford there in Detroit. I think that this is a guy that's got a lot of experience. And I said this before, that I would just automatically trust whoever Shane Steichen decided to pick, because this is a guy who just knows quarterbacks. He knows how to develop them. Most important of all, now you have Shane Steichen who helped develop Phillip Rivers. He helped develop Justin Herbert, and then Jalen Hurts. And now you've got a guy who directed the pass game for Trevor Lawrence and helped get him on point. So you got 2 guys that are going to help whoever they draft immensely. And it's going to really benefit. It's going to behoove whoever they bring in the draft. Personally, I'm just going to say it. I think it's an absolutely fantastic hire. I think that it's a team that needs a guy like that at offensive coordinator. And again, I trust Shane Steichen. I think that he knew exactly who he wanted before he even walked in here. He probably threw some names back and forth, but I think he had Jim Bob at the back of his mind the whole time. So I think that he's also quite excited to bring another quarterback guy into Indianapolis to help develop a rookie.
I do too. I think that Jim Bob Cooter was Steichen's top target from the start, and I think what this hire says about where the Colts are is this hire was for a rookie quarterback, and I'll tell you why. It's because Jim Bob Cooter has worked with multiple quarterbacks, and it seems like that's where he has excelled. He's a former college quarterback himself from the University of Tennessee. I mean, he has worked with Peyton Manning, he's worked with Matthew Stafford, and when he was there as the offensive coordinator in Detroit, Matthew Stafford has some of the most productive years of his career down there. You saw the impact that he had with Trevor Lawrence, and I'm not saying that it's Trevor Lawrence's success this year is all on Jim Bob Cooter.
Oh yeah.
But Cooter definitely played a role in that, in helping not only to develop Lawrence with the NFL game, but getting him in that position to succeed. And what's one of the things that Shane Steichen said at his introductory press conference? He said that this offensive system is going to be all about who is playing quarterback. The Colts are trying to get this all set up so that way their rookie quarterback can come in and be in the best position to succeed right away. I think every single hire on the offensive side of the ball so far, even, and we'll see that when the Colts eventually hire an offensive line coach and a quarterbacks coach, it's going to be all centered around who's going to be playing quarterback for this team, not only next year, but 5, 10, hopefully 15 years down the road, if the Colts can get this choice right and get their next franchise quarterback. So as we dive into some of the pros and cons, I think you're going to see that, because adding a guy that has offensive coordinator experience previously to a rookie head coach, you're adding a guy that maybe has a more laid back approach as in regards to Shane Steichen's more fiery approach. The two can kind of balance each other out. But just because Jim Bob Cooter's not calling plays doesn't mean that he's just going to be a pawn and fill this role as offensive coordinator. He is going to be very, very crucial to this offense's success in the years to come, and as well as his work with that rookie quarterback.
Well, and you got to there's a couple things here that are pretty awesome. Is the last time the Detroit Lions went to the playoffs? Okay, he was calling the plays. Okay, so this guy understands how to help a fledgling team. And look, they kind of built around Peyton Manning, I think, mostly on offense, and obviously the offensive line was fantastic. But it's nice after the Andrew Luck era, and then this ridiculous carousel that's been happening. Who knew what the hell was happening? During all that time, you always said, "Oh, they're not building around Andrew Luck." Well, guess what? They have changed that, and they're already showing you that they're changing it, and they are putting an entire coaching staff to support whoever that quarterback's going to be. It doesn't matter who they're drafting. Whoever is going to walk into the Indianapolis Colts facility, they're going to have coaches that are ready to get guys around him. They're going to have coaches that are ready to call plays that are going to maximize his strengths and make him feel comfortable. And I think that it's going to help that quarterback do better than I think some people believe, because, again, Shane Steichen is already kind of doing what Frank Reich is doing over in Carolina. He's putting together a good staff, knowing dang good and well we can't have Andrew Luck again. Okay, we don't want a guy to retire in 9 years. So I think this is very good, and every Colts fan out there should be incredibly happy with what they're seeing so far.
So Colts Loyalist has a question here about my article that I put out about Jim Bob Cooter. And I put in it that the Jags could not block the interview. He says, I thought they could if they chose, because both were coordinator positions. So there's a difference between the passing game coordinator and the offensive coordinator. So passing game coordinator it's kind of in the middle of a step between, like, say, quarterback coach and offensive coordinator. It's kind of right in there. He's not considered one of the top coordinators, like an offensive coordinator, defense, special teams, but he has a specific role. And going from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator, where you're overseeing the entire offense rather than just one specific portion of the game plan, that is considered a promotion. And teams cannot block assistant coaches from interviewing if they're interviewing for a position that is going to be a promotion for them. If it's of the same title, so say if the Colts interviewed Jim Bob Cooter to be their passing game coordinator, the Jaguars could block that. But since it was going to be a promotion to step up to offensive coordinator, the Jaguars couldn't do that. They would, the only way that they wouldn't have been able to interview Jim Bob Cooter is if Jim Bob Cooter himself said, no, I don't want to interview. So that kind of explains that. But Matthew Bright kind of says, I think it helps with our quarterback selection, kind of echoing what I said. David has a question for Drake. Where'd you get that Colts hat? It's sweet. Drake, tell the people where you got the Colts hat from.
So after the crushing Week 18 loss, which both me and Andrew got to witness live at Lucas Oil against the Texans, I decided to go with my girlfriend to Dick's Sporting Goods. She wanted some running shoes. I saw this bad boy just sitting there on sale, and I was like, I got to have it. So I just got it at Dick's Sporting Goods. Absolutely loved it, and I appreciate it. It's very nice. It fits my giant head very well, and thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there we go. Steve, good to see you, buddy. Ready for the Istvin announcement? Maybe Rivers as quarterback coach. I have a feeling that by the time the combine starts next week, we will have a full staff in place for the Colts. So we'll have to see what happens. Lawrence says the good thing about a losing record, you get Colts gear on sale. Very true. Very, very true. Stats Matt asks, my question is, what will Smith be? Because we all assume it's the running back coach. We're going to talk about DeAndre Smith later in the episode, but I'll give you a hint, Stats Matt. It is going to be the running back coach, but we'll talk about that here later in a bit. So Drake, let's move on to some pros and cons about Jim Bob Cooter, because not every hire is perfect. I know Colts fans want to believe every hire is perfect, but every a candidate has their flaws. So Drake, what pros and cons do you see from Jim Bob Cooter?
Well, I go ahead and start with we'll start with the bad. I do think that he doesn't have a ton of play calling experience. He hasn't really been an offensive coordinator for really much of his career. He's been more of a position guy, so it may hurt him a little bit to come into an offensive coordinator role where you do not have Matt Stafford. All right, you don't have a guy who knows the ropes of the NFL, and you're walking into a new head coach too, not Jim Caldwell, where he knew how to coach. He's been doing this for a long time. Well, not a long time, but he had been in the league a lot longer than Shane Steichen. And I think another thing is potentially outside of Peyton Manning, that really hasn't been part of many successful teams. But then if we're going to the pro side, he has worked with on the other end of the sword. He's worked with quarterbacks like Peyton Manning, like Matt Stafford, like Jalen Hurts, like Trevor Lawrence, guys that were very high ceiling or they were legendary in talent. And then, of course, he has seen a couple of successful seasons, and they've both been with Peyton Manning, both Super Bowl years. Obviously, they didn't win in 2013 with the Broncos and 2009 with the Indianapolis Colts. But the last one is my biggest one. Look, the Urban Meyer disaster in Jacksonville, and then the interim coach at the end of the year. You saw glimpses of when Trevor Lawrence destroyed the Colts' season and kicked Carson Wentz out of town. All right. He helped develop Trevor Lawrence into, I'll just go ahead and say it, I know this is a family show, but a badass. Okay. Like seriously, like the guy, every time he was on the field, I'm like, man, this dude just keeps getting better. And it all culminated in that massive comeback in the wild card round against the Chargers, a thing of masterpiece performance. So he helped with all that. It wasn't just Doug Peterson. He assisted with that. You're walking into a situation where a rookie will be in a Colts uniform, and it's going to really help to have an offensive coordinator that knows everything from the highest of the high to a guy that needs all the help he can get. And he got that guy a lot of help last year. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think one of the major pros is just his work with quarterbacks. I mean, he knows the quarterback position and the ins and outs of that. He is going to be the one. He's going to be tasked with some major responsibilities as far as game planning is concerned. About as far as figuring out what is best and what works well with this young quarterback. What are his strengths? What exactly does he like? And not only that, I know we've been talking a lot about quarterbacks, but you also got to think of what is going to work best with Jonathan Taylor, with Michael Pittman, with Jelani Woods, with Alec Pierce, all the young talented playmakers that are on this Colts offense too. So you're going to want to incorporate that into this. So I actually think that for him having those 3 years as an offensive coordinator where he led the show, he was the one calling the plays and everything like that, I think that's actually huge for this, because Shane Steichen is a rookie head coach. It's not like Shane Steichen has done this before. He's going to have to figure out how to balance. I mean, most of his work is going to be with the offensive side of the ball, but he's going to have so many other responsibilities as far as managing not just the offense, but for an entire roster, that he's going to need to be able to really figure out how to navigate his way through that and kind of master all that. So it's having somebody that has led an offense before, been that main guy in the room, been able to facilitate game plans, lead meetings, work on the protection plan, setting the audibles for the offense for the weekend. I think that's going to be huge for Shane Steichen to be able to lean on as he gets his feet wet. Now, and like I said, that just kind of shows all of what he's going to be doing as offensive coordinator. Just because he's not calling plays doesn't mean he's not going to be just this hollow person holding a title. He's going to have a lot to do with this offense. As far as cons are concerned, I would probably say that, I mean, it's true that his teams with the teams that he's been on haven't really had a lot of success. While Matthew Stafford was very productive with the Lions while Jim Bob Cooter was the OC. I think they finished something like 20th, 7th, and 25th in scoring, respectively, in those 3 seasons. So, and again, I didn't really watch the Lions too closely when Jim Bob Cooter was the offensive coordinator. That could have been a lot of personnel. That could have been a whole bunch of other different factors. But you don't, it is still kind of a concern that it's not necessarily a guy coming from a top flight offense, or someone that has been privy to offenses that have a lot of success. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he fits in this role, and then kind of what how the responsibilities and how everything's going to be divvied up between Steichen and Cooter.
Well, he's gonna look. Everybody, I understand Shane Steichen was a fantastic play caller in Philadelphia, and he's a great offensive mind. But again, like Andrew said, he is walking into a foreign situation with a team that was just coming off of arguably its most pathetic and embarrassing year that it can remember. Okay, in its most pivotal offseason in a decade and a half. And you're going to see you're going to see completely different play or signal caller that's going to be a rookie, and he's going to need to delegate some of these decisions to people. We saw it with Sirianni, and it worked when he delegated those decisions. So it's like, who knows what can happen? A lot of confidence in Steichen, but there's going to be moments where he's going to need to turn to Jim Bob and be like, hey, what do you think? Like, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot more than I think people believe, but it's a good connection. I think it's a good hire between a head coach and his OC, and they both trust each other. And most important part is, well, two things. They both know how to develop a quarterback, I think, and they also have worked together before. So both those things are definitely going to, I think, help them.
They do have chemistry from working together in 2021 with the Eagles. David says, loves the podcast, watching list to everything Colts. You guys are awesome. David, we appreciate it. So happy that you're enjoying yourself and joining us on the ride. Lawrence says, good thing he's not calling the plays, but Steichen is. But offensive coordinators all help develop the first few scripted drives each game. And again, that's going to be another one of his roles as offensive coordinator. He said he's also been a running back coach, so he's got position multiplicity stats. Matt says it's not just on the quarterback. He's not just a quarterback guru. He has areas of expertise all around the offense. Nico says, getting nervous about Istvan. Why is this deal not done yet? In time, Nico, in time. I fully expect Istvan to be the top priority for Steichen. I'm sure they're still all trying to work through that. Stats Matt even says, I'm not worried about Istvan. By all reports, he's the front runner, and Smith came out of nowhere, so it's probably going on behind the scenes. And then Lawrence makes a good point. Jim Bob has never been on a team with a great defense. I say maybe outside of last year with Jacksonville, and even Jacksonville's defense wasn't all that great, but you still saw the production he was able to do with Trevor Lawrence. So Drake, let's move on to our next question here. And I've already touched on it, but what do you see Jim Bob Cooter's role being with the Indianapolis Colts as their offensive coordinator?
Well, and to start off, it's just like what Lawrence mentioned. He's going to be He's going to be helping with those first couple, scripted scripted drives. I do think that he's going to help conduct the overall game plan as well. He's going to help with preparation, and again, Shane Steichen is going to be overseeing an entire team, mostly the offense, but he's the head guy now. All right, he's not just on one side of the ball, so he's going to have to at times potentially help with the defense, and Jim Bob might have to help a little more with the offense, depending on week 3 as opposed to week 7. Are you facing a hardcore defense? Well, you might want 2 offensive minds conducting that game plan. Whereas if you're, facing a kind of a mediocre defense, maybe it's a little more on Jim Bob or a little more on Steichen, and maybe Jim Bob can help to, with the training that week or something. He's going to be very heavily involved in getting ready for the offensive game plan. And I also think that he will help call the plays, but he's not going to obviously be fully in charge of it. But again, going back to it, I think he's going to have a big role. All right. Shane Steichen has never done this. We've said it a couple times. He needs delegation. He needs advisors. And I think he's got a good one with Jim Bob.
Unboxing Mania says greatest coach name ever. I think we'd all agree. We'd all agree on that. Sarah says Tom Manning coming back as tight ends coach is huge. Sarah, we're going to talk about Tom Manning here in a little bit when we talk about DeAndre Smith, but I think you'll find we're pretty big fans of that as well. And Stats Matt, of course, stealing exactly what I was going to say. Jim Bob is going to be doing what Callahan does in Cincy, helping the scheme each week, run meetings, etc. And that's exactly what I was going to say. I even detailed on this show a few weeks ago what exactly Brian Callahan and his role was in the Cincinnati offense. And I think that's going to be very similar to what Bob Cooter does as the offensive coordinator for the Colts. He is going to be leading the offensive meetings. He is going to have a huge role in game planning each week. He is going to help set up the audibles each week. He's going to set the protection plan. He is going to help with the running game, the passing game, probably a good portion of the third down work he'll be involved in. You're going to see Bob Cooter's fingerprints all over this Colts offense. And then, like Lawrence Owen said earlier, he's probably going to be heavily involved with scripting and meeting with Shane Steichen each week to script those first 15 to 20 plays, however many they choose to script. It's going to be, but so he's going to have, like I said, fingerprints all over this. He's going to have a very big role in what this offense looks like on a week-to-week basis. And I think it fits with what Shane Steichen says is they're going to be very multiple in their offense. Yes, they're going to throw to score points and run to win, but it's going to be determined on the flow of the game. They're going to switch things up on a week-to-week basis based on the opponent and the defense that they're facing. And I think you have to have coaches that can easily adapt, especially when those in the head coaching spot and the offensive coordinator position, when you're going to be as detailed in your game plans as this. And I think Steichen and Cooter both fit those molds.
Well, I mean, Cooter did it last year with Trevor Lawrence. He helped him, adjust game plans where they had to turn to Travis Etienne, several times to do a lot of the heavy lifting and open up the passing game. But also Steichen hinted to it. He goes, "I've gone into, games where we had a passing game plan and ended up running the ball 45 times." So both of those guys, they both know how to adjust. They both know how to say this is not working. We got to do one thing to open up what we originally wanted to do, or we have to throw this out and do this. I mean, they are constantly on their toes, and that's just great that not one guy is thinking the opposite way. They're both on the same level, and I think that's something that we not only didn't see last year, but it's safe to say you probably haven't seen it really since maybe even the Tony Dungy days, with just continuity across the coaching staff. So it's nice to see the OC and the head coach, both new guys, walking into a new situation on the same page. It's very uplifting.
Right. Colts Loyalist makes a good point. The scheme should be very dynamic with these guys' game planning. And then Lawrence asked, do you think Wayne has a shot of continuing as the wide receiver coach? I really do. Reggie Wayne is still under contract as the wide receiver coach. And as far as I've heard, I haven't heard anything says that the Colts and Steichen want to move off of him. Obviously, we'll wait to make sure. But I think there's a good chance Reggie Wayne is back as the wide receiver coach for this Colts team. And our new analyst on Horseshoe Huddle and our fellow co-worker, I should say, Destin Adams, says a big win for the Colts is also that Bob is known to share his opinion on a ton with his head coaches. He won't be a pushover type that we saw in the past couple years. And I think this is so crucial to the success of this team. You don't want all of your coaches on your staff to have the same opinions. You want those differences in opinions. You want the coaching staff to challenge each other because that's what makes good coaching staffs and good teams. Not just having a bunch of yes men behind the head coach, but having assistants there that will voice their opinions freely and having that discussion as far as what they think is going to be best for this team. So I think that's another point that is a great point by Destin, that Bob Cooter isn't just going to sit back and let Shane Steichen do whatever he wants. If he thinks that there's something with this offense that can be made better than what Steichen is proposing, he's going to voice that, and they're going to have that conversation.
Well, and that fits Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay's, back and forth where they didn't agree with each other on everything, looking for a coach. That fits Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard when Chris Ballard says, look, we didn't agree on everything, and that's good. Well, it also fits well that the OC is willing to do that same thing with the head coach. So everybody from the owner so far down to the offensive coordinator, they're all willing to say, look, this is stupid in my opinion. Like that's fantastic. If you get a bunch of yes men, you're going to suck. You're going to eventually suck. You might have a nice run, but you're going to suck. You're not going to win anything. So it's like, it's good for the Colts, especially going through what is they gave him a 6-year contract to basically, I think, say, look, we are giving you time to do what you need to do, bring in your type of game plan. pick your quarterback, pick your staff. We're behind you, and that's the kind of attitude you got to have between coaches is just got to say it straight at them, straightforward. I don't agree with you. Let's do this. You move on quicker that way.
Yeah, and Michael Williams says Frank loved his yes men. I mean, Frank had a good staff at first, then it started to develop into yes men, I think. But his stats, Matt says no yes men, and it's good for staffs to eventually agree on what is the best decision and best way to move forward, but you still want those guys in there to challenge each other. You don't just want them automatically agreeing with the head coach. You want to have assistants in there that will voice their opinions when they think something is wrong, and that's what Bob Cooter is going to do with Shane Steichen. So overall, I think it's a great hire by the Colts. I think these two are going to work very well together, and it's going to be a very good situation for the rookie quarterback, whoever they do take, whether it's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, whoever is the next rookie quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to be in a very good situation with these two leading the way. So, but let's move it along to some other Colts news, specifically some more hires on the coaching staff. And let's start with the one that was announced over the weekend here. And this hasn't been official yet because the Colts will not announce their full staff until everybody has been hired. But it has been reported that the Colts are hiring Giants running back coach DeAndre Smith as their running backs coach. So coming over to do the same role. And DeAndre Smith has a lot of years as a running backs coach, mostly in college. I think he only has 2 years of NFL coaching experience, but he has been a running back coach from 2001 since 2001, so almost 20 years. And from 2001 to 2021, he was a running back coach in college. So, there was time at Northern Illinois, Miami of Ohio, New Mexico, UNLV, Illinois, back to New Mexico, Syracuse, Purdue, Indiana connection right there, North Carolina, Utah State, Tech, and Texas Tech before becoming the New York Giants. Actually, he only has 1 year. I'm mistaken. He only has 1 year of coaching experience in the NFL. So Drake, I know you were all over this over the weekend. What do you think of DeAndre Smith becoming the new running back coach for the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, I have heard concerns which are very, very justified. Not a lot of NFL experience. Oh, he's also been from program to program. Look, he's a running backs coach. All right. He's not a head coach. He's not an offensive coordinator that keeps getting fired. All right. He's a running back coach. And I'll tell you something, though. I'll tell you what I think about him. Saquon Barkley had career highs in attempts. He had career highs in rushing yards. He dang near beat his career high in rushing touchdowns. Yes, Brian Dable, fantastic coach, but you also have to have a good running backs coach to get a guy like Saquon that was falling apart. People were like, this dude is cooked. He is done. And I think he helped him get back on track. Well, look, you got Shane Steichen, who understands running back committees. He knows how to maximize that talent. I think that all that experience in college and in the NFL, which you got to think, these RPOs, these options, getting quarterbacks out in space and running backs out in space, it's kind of like a college scheme. So it's like, it fits, I think, what Shane Steichen's going to do. I think he's going to maximize Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, and Deion Jackson. It's going to be a three-headed monster with Smith as the running backs coach. I think it's a good hire. A lot of experience.
Sure, it's asking, where's your donate tab? Well, we got to get to 1,000 subscribers for the donate
YouTube,
tab,
man. It's
so the super chat can come on. So hey, get everybody to subscribe, and that donate tab for the super chats will be on there. So, but yeah, I think DeAndre Smith. I think he's a no nonsense guy. He has bounced around quite a bit, like I said. But I think DeAndre Smith is, like I said, no nonsense guy, but he's a hell of a teacher, very well respected running back coach. And I think as far as running back coaches, or as far as assistant coaches are concerned, the one that I don't mind having as much experience in the NFL is probably running back coach, because running backs are usually the position that can come into the NFL and contribute immediately. So there isn't as big of a jump, I would say, from the college to the pro level as far as running backs are concerned. And there definitely is a jump, but we see it every year how running backs, first and second year running backs, take the league by storm. So I think it is a good fit. I think it's an outside fit too. You don't just want Steichen hiring all of his buddies. You like some of that outside expertise to really come in and help to really strengthen your team. So it's going to be the role that Scotty Montgomery has held for the past couple years, and he did a great job with those running backs. As StatsMat says, I think 3 or 4 of those changes came off of a head coach hiring from in college, as far as changing different teams. So it's going to be interesting for sure. But I'm honestly, I mean, we'll just see what happens. I don't think I have a huge opinion either way. I do think that as long as the biggest thing that the running backs may need to improve on is probably pass protection. So if he can help there, I think that would be huge for this Colts team. But DeAndre Smith, I think, will add a little bit of fire to that running back position for sure. But the next hire we want to get to is talking about the tight end position. And Drake, you wrote a piece on this today. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go over to horseshoehuddle.com and check out Drake's piece. The Colts are bringing back Tom Manning as their tight end coach. Now, Tom Manning, he has been kind of all over the place, but he was with the Colts in 2018 as their tight end coach. He was only there for 1 season at the very beginning of the Frank Reich era. But as you remember, that 2018 season, Eric Ebron went off, made it to his only Pro Bowl. Jack Doyle, when he was healthy, had a great year. We saw Mo Alley Cox really ascend with Tom Manning as the tight ends coach. So since Manning has left the Colts in 2018, he was at Iowa State for 4 seasons as their offensive coordinator and running back coach, offensive coordinator and tight end coach. And then he was the offensive coordinator at Cincinnati. He was going to be, I should say, the offensive coordinator at Cincinnati before he took this job as the Colts tight end coach. So Drake, give us something about Tom Manning. How do you feel about this hire?
Well, there's 2 things that stick out to me. Number one, Eric Ebron had hit career highs in receptions with 66, yards with 750, touchdowns with 13. I know he had Andrew Luck, but look, there's got to be a guy that's going to help those tight ends get to the point of where they can get that productive. And Eric Ebron has not done anything like that since. All right. So, or before, really. I mean, then you've got the fact that Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, and Eric Ebron together, they had 99 catches for 1,128 yards and 17 touchdowns. I know Ebron had a large part of that, but man, that's impressive. And as you said, Jack Doyle, he played 6 games, had 26 catches, had 2 touchdowns. He plays the whole season. Who knows where those numbers go? Okay, like he might have 50, 60 catches along with Ebron. You're talking about over 120, 130 catches. So, I mean, he is going to get, imagine him now with a blazer like Kylan Granson. You've got a run blocking monster like Andrew Ogletree. And then you've got who I think will, and I'm not joking, will be a superstar in the league, in Jelani Woods. He's uncoverable. I mean, look for this guy to have 10 plus touchdown catches. Like, seriously. So I'm excited. I think it's one of my favorite hires. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, yes, because the tight end position has been so flat since 2019 for the Colts. Just hasn't been where it needs to be. So this is good. This is great. It's the guy who was coaching the tight ends the last time the Colts group at that position was really killing it.
Before I talk about the tight ends, I'm going to give a shout out to David for subscribing to the pod. We love to see it. And then Jimmy coming through with a great idea. Everyone use secondary emails to boost their subscriptions. Jimmy, you're the GOAT, brother. You're the GOAT.
Look at that.
You've got a brain on you, my guy. And then Destin comes in. Everyone subscribe and get us to 1K. And I'll convince Drake to do a popular TikTok dance live to celebrate. Hey, that would be one wild episode, because
you're going to buzz your head and I'm going to dance.
When we get to 1K, I'm going Chrome Dome, and you're going to do a TikTok dance. I mean, shoot, we might get to 2,000 subscribers literally that night with that happening. But I think it's it's great for this tight end room. It really is to have Tom Manning back. And like you said, I think these young guys, Jelani Woods, Drew Ogletree, and Kylan Granson are really going to benefit from having someone like Tom Manning in that room, giving that expertise to them. And we're going to really see the growth out of these guys. Year 2 for Woods and Ogletree. Oh, well, technically Ogletree's rookie season, but then year 3 for Kylan Granson. You're going to see in this Shane Steichen offense, I think you're going to see a lot of the tight ends used more. I mean, like Drake has mentioned multiple times on the show, Dallas Goedert has been saw a really huge uptick in production once Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen came on board, and now he's considered one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I very well could see that as for Jelani Woods, because you're talking about a guy that's 6'7", 260 pounds, can run a 4.6 40, and as we've seen, he runs like an angry moose there in the open field when he's got the ball. I mean, it's very hard to get that man down. Sarah saying that he absolutely loves Jelani and Ogletree and Granson. Stats Matt said Hicks said Manning loves Mo, so that scares me some. Hey, if Mo Alley Cox can produce better in the blocking game, I mean, I'm all for it, because the Colts do still need help from the tight ends as far as run blocking and pass blocking is concerned. But I think that bringing Tom Manning back will just elevate the entire group and really help to add another dimension to this offense that we saw in spurts last year, I think. But the Colts didn't necessarily take advantage of. But once you have a second year for Jelani Woods, a third year for Kylan Granson, and maybe Tom Manning can unlock that spark that we all thought Mo Alley Cox had, I think you could see a very different looking tight end group and a much more productive tight end group in 2023.
Well, and you got to think, this is something I put in my piece. You know what a rookie quarterback's best friend is a safety blanket at tight end. And now you've got 3, and one of which can block like Jack Doyle. Okay, so I'm telling you, if somehow, and I've been a guy that I remember when I was like back in November, I wrote a piece on why the Colts should trade Mo Alley Cox. Look, if somehow he can get a little bit of that spark, like you said, 4 guys, oh, dude, good Lord, man, you could put some of those guys in the slot, put some of those guys out on goal line situations, on a corner. I mean, good Lord, imagine you got Mo Alley over here and you got Jelani Woods over here, like right next to the line of scrimmage. It's like, what are you even supposed to do with that? So I'm all for it. I think that it's a great safety blanket for a rookie quarterback and a great hire for Tom Manning for the tight ends coach.
I mean, you got to think of all those times that Andrew Luck on 3rd and 8, he would throw it to a Jack Doyle who was sitting there for 9 yards and just continue to move the chains. So rookie quarterbacks love tight ends, and I think Tom Manning's going to have a major positive impact on this group this year and moving forward. As Stats Matt says, I have a tree package: Mo, Drew, Woods, Pitt, and Pierce. Hey, if the Colts should use that every time in the red zone, they would easily rank in the top 5 as far as converting down there in the money area. So, but that's our show for tonight, guys. We really appreciate all of you coming aboard. I mean, there's so many people that I could shout out tonight. Obviously, Stats Math, Quentin, John, Sarah, Lawrence, Ricky, Jimmy, David for subscribing, Nico, Truett, Colts loyalist, Michael. There's just so many of you. I know Nathan. I know I missed Chad. Steve. It just keeps going on and on. You guys are just absolutely amazing with all the comments, all the love. We really do appreciate it. And like Jimmy has said, start using those extra emails if you have done it already. But if you haven't, it's going to come by on the bottom on the ticker. Go ahead and like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Go ahead and follow Colts on FN on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, whenever Shad and Destin are going live, because the combine is only a couple weeks away, and then we're into free agency and the NFL draft. And you know that night on the NFL draft, when the Colts choose their future franchise quarterback, you're going to want to be in the know. So definitely, we appreciate all of you guys for joining in. It's been a hell of a ride already, and we're only beginning to grow. So Drake, before we go, tell the people what you're working on and what they can find on horseshoehuddle.com, written by you.
Well, so I just wrote the Tom Manning piece and went into a little bit of why I think that he's going to really help elevate the Colts offense from that position. But I'm also going to be writing a piece on a potential Shaq Leonard trade and if the Colts should or shouldn't do it. And I'll present both sides, and that should get some stellar conversations going. So be on the lookout for that.
That'll definitely get some people either riled up in a good way or a bad way. We'll have to see. But I obviously put out the piece today announcing the reported hiring of Bob Cooter. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the Colts OC, go ahead and check that out. And then I know we're all looking towards the draft, but we've got free agency before that. And there's a good chance that the Colts are going to sign a veteran bridge quarterback. So I'm going to have a piece out either tomorrow or Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that, of 5 potential bridge quarterbacks that the Colts could sign this offseason. So that one's going to be fun to do. And I hope you guys all enjoy it. So, but that's it for tonight. We will be back on Thursday night to talk some more Colts football with you as the scouting combine just gets ever so closer. So until then, you guys have a good one, and we'll be back on Thursday. Cheers.